fighter has the highest fight IQ?
I don't think there's nobody in the game that has the fight IQ that I have.
Off the charts.
His IQ
the
is
highest
insane.
fight IQ maybe ever.
This guy hits hard. He's tough. He's this, he's that. And this guy has a dream. But my fight IQ will win this fight.
Welcome to the Fight IQ podcast. I'm back with another episode. Today, I'm going to be playing Matchmaker for you guys. As you can see, I got some key fighters from UFC 311 up on the screen. And these fighters are either winners from the card or just people who I think hold enough weight in their own division and they deserve to be highlighted a little bit. So let's start up at the top. Islam Makhachev beats Renato Moicano in very dominant fashion. I think the next fight that you make for him is the rematch with Charles Oliveira. I think Charles deserves it. I think the fight with Arman was super close. It seems like Arman is not going to be getting the next title shot per Dana White and a couple other media members. I think this is the next matchup you do. Although the first fight, Charles got finished, got dropped, and then got arm triangled, I think Charles is the next best guy in the division right now. I don't want to see Islam move up just yet. I mean, he just fought a kind of a last-minute fight. It wasn't a fight that held as much weight as the Arman one would have. So I'd like to see him get another title defense at lightweight. I don't want to see him fight Ilya either. Ilya has things to handle in his own division before moving up to lightweight. So I think that's the next fight you make, Islam versus Oliveira 2. Let's move on to Merab. Great performance. I liked the aggression on the feet with the boxing. It's something that we haven't really seen a ton from Merab. He wasn't able to hold a ton of position over Umar. He was able to take him down many, many times. And listen, I put it in air quotes, but I was impressed by Merab's performance. The reason I put it in air quotes is because he didn't really hold that much control time on top. And I think if you're going to take people down, I think the control time is valued pretty highly. The next fight that I want to see for Merab is, again, I think the only guy that you can put in for this title shot right now, and that's a rematch with Peter Yan. The first fight was pretty close. Peter Yan coming off a nice win over Figgy. I think this is what you do. I don't want to see the O'Malley rematch right away. Corey Sandhagen doesn't deserve it. There's a couple other guys who are up there but don't really deserve it. Peter Yan is the next fight you do. Now I want to move over to Jiri Prochazka. There's some interesting stuff going on at light heavyweight right now. We got to get the title settled. We got to do Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. Ankalaev is clearly the next guy in line, has been for a long time. There's a fight that they're doing, and it is going to be Jan Blachowicz versus Carlos Ulberg. So that's what I want to see. I want to see Jiri fight the winner of Blachowicz versus Ulberg. Jiri hasn't fought Blachowicz yet. Obviously hasn't fought Ulberg yet. Excuse me. This is going to be a great fight. However, it's not a number one contender fight, in my opinion. Blachowicz already lost a close fight to Pereira in the past. And with a win over Blachowicz, I don't think that puts Ulberg as the number one contender, being that Jiri just had a really, really impressive win over Hill. This is what I think you do. I think you put Jiri against the winner of Blachowicz and Ulberg. Let's move on to Jailton Almeida. Impressive win. Definitely an impressive win. Spivak is a tough guy in the division. I don't think Spivak is ever going to get a title shot. He's not that type of guy. But I think Jailton could. And this guy who I'm about to put him up against, I think he won his last fight. The judges didn't give it to him. That is going to be Alexander Volkov. I think you do this as a sneaky sort of number one contender fight, possible number one contender fight, while they're waiting for John Jones and Aspinall to sort that out. I'm really, really, really hoping that they do Aspinall versus Jones. It's really the only fight that you do for the heavyweight title right now. And I think Jailton versus Volkov would be a great fight to do in the meanwhile. Now let's move over to the next winner from the card, which was Rainier de Ridder. I mean, listen, you can't bet on Kevin Holland. I knew there was a chance that Holland was just going to accept bottom position and just get subbed. It's always a possibility in a Holland fight. Whether he shows up and wants to fight or shows up and just wants to get through with the fight. Those are two different things, and those are the two different Kevin Hollands that we can get. We happened to get the one that just showed up and didn't want to fight. Rainier de Ridder, however, impressive submission, round 1. I want to see him fight someone who's going to put him in a little more danger, someone who always shows up to have a striking battle and has great takedown defense and good jiu-jitsu in his own right. He hasn't won a fight in a while, but I still think he holds some weight in the division, and that is Paulo Costa. I think you do Rainier de Ridder versus Paulo Costa. I could see you doing that not really as like a main event. I could see it being a co-main event on like a really good fight night, or like opening up the card, or have it be like the second fight on a pay-per-view card. I could see that. But that's the fight that I want to see next for Rainier de Ridder. Now let's move down to some losers from the card. Renato Moicano had one really cool moment. It seemed people were calling it a slip. I thought it was a knockdown. Maybe it was a combination of both. But then, Renato Moicano gets taken down as he's scrambling. He kind of finds himself in a front headlock position and gets darsed by Islam. Islam has a very, very good darce, and it must be super tight because Renato tapped pretty quickly. What I think you do next for Renato, remake the Beneil Dariush fight. Grant Dawson called out Beneil Dariush. That could be a good fight, but I think there's a better fight for Grant Dawson, and just it would make the bottom of the division a little bit weird. The bottom/middle of the division, it would kind of make it a little bit weird if you do Dawson versus Beneil, because there's a couple other matchups that I think should happen, and I think that would throw a wrench in the gears. But anyway, let's move on to Umar Nurmagomedov. He lost close decision, but he lost 3 rounds out of the 2. I even thought round 1 was pretty close, to be honest. Next for Umar Nurmagomedov. This is the fight that I think they should have done before they booked Jan versus Figgy. I think Figgy versus Umar. This is the fight I wanted to see before Umar got the title shot and before Figgy got matched up with Jan. I think this is a good fight for the division. I think it's a winnable fight for both guys. A little bit more winnable for Umar, if I'm being honest. But that's the next fight that I want to see there. Not too much explaining to do, just a really good fight to make at the top of the division. Next, we have Jamal Hill. Unfortunately, coming off of 2 knockout losses now, he still, is at that top of the division and deserves a good guy at the top of the division. But you don't give him someone who is on a win streak. I think you give him a guy who's also coming off of a loss. Not a bad loss either. I mean, he did get finished, but he had a pretty decent performance before that. Khalil Roundtree. I was thinking too, you do Jamal Hill versus Rakic. Rakic just lost to Jiri. He just lost to Jiri. Kind of makes sense. But when I'm looking at the matchup, this, I think, would be a better fight. They both make sense for the division. I think the Rakic fight, they're a little bit closer in the rankings. But in terms of guys at the top of the division coming off of losses who can have a nice, exciting fight, that's what I want to see. Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. Let's move on to Peyton Talbot. Man, I am upset. I am upset only because I trusted in this dude, and I made a video talking about why he was going to be champion. And listen, man, his wrestling looked pretty bad. I'm not going to lie. It looked really bad. He needs to work on that wrestling. It's not like he got taken down and held down the entire time. He did get up and out a few times. He was causing a couple scrambles, but he was getting dominated in the grappling. I think you give him someone who has grappling, has a name in the division. Look, people are still going to be talking about Peyton Talbot. They're going to be talking about how he got fraud checked. They're going to be talking about all this stuff, but they're still going to be talking about him. He's still going to be a name in the division, and you give him another name in the division who's not really up there. He's not in the rankings, but former champion, former badass, has some great performances in the UFC, still in the UFC, Cody Garbrandt. Tell me this would not be a banger. Peyton Talbot versus Cody Garbrandt. Everyone's going to want to see this. People, the hype has died down a little bit on Peyton Talbot. You got to give him someone with a name who people are going to get excited for the fight, and I think this is that fight. Next, let's move on to Grant Dawson. Grant Dawson just knows how to win, man. Say what you will, boring grappling style, whatever. Dude knows how to win. Dude has great wrestling. Didn't look half bad on the feet either. I think you give him someone who also poses a grappling threat but can scrap on the feet and in the top 15. Grant Dawson, I think, obviously deserves someone in the top 15 now. He was in the top 15 and ended up getting pushed out due to some people moving around, some people entering. I think you give him Benoit Saint-Denis. Benoit Saint-Denis came in super hot to the UFC. He's coming off a couple of losses, a couple bad losses. But you put him in there against Dawson because Dawson's not really like this knockout threat. It's not like, oh man, you keep giving Benoit Saint-Denis people who are just going to knock him out. This is not that guy. This is a winnable fight for Benoit Saint-Denis, and it's a good fight to get Dawson kind of back up into the rankings, back up into the conversation. And the last person that I'm going to talk about today, Eileen Perez. Good win. She got the win. You got to keep talking about her because she keeps winning. She's on a 5-fight win streak now. She's working her way up in a division that's not really that exciting. It's got some good fighters in it, but people who they climb, and then they lose, and now we stop talking about them. Give her someone on a win streak as well, and this person, I believe, is also on a 5-fight win streak, so it makes sense, and higher ranked than Eileen Perez. You give her Norma Dumont. Not really much to talk about. I mean, women's bantamweight is what it is. It's never going to be exciting. We have Pena as the champion right now, coming off of a weird fluky win. The division doesn't really matter. Eileen Perez, Norma Dumont, they're both on win streaks right now. They're both, Norma Dumont's been in the division a little bit longer, has a little bit of a name. A win over Norma Dumont puts Eileen Perez in the conversation for getting a number 1 contender fight. And I think that's what you do. These are my thoughts on the next matchups that you do for all the key fighters from UFC 311. Please let me know in the comments if you think differently, if I completely fucked up, or praise me for how good of a job I did, because I think I did some pretty good matchmaking here. I will catch you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe, please. It helps a lot. See you on the next one. Peace.